Hi everyone, it's Margaret from The Art of Dog. I'm here in San Diego on Kumeyaay land, and we are, of course, in California experiencing a lot of environmental upheaval with the fires. Here in San Diego, we're very fortunate that the largest fire we had here didn't get too far out of hand and it's mostly contained. But between that fire and the fires farther up north, the air quality here has been affected. And today I went out with Kestrel to Coronado Dog Beach. Um, and the air out there, because of the marine layer, was just the same. And what I wanted to talk about was how to help yourself and your pets um, through not only the weather and the air quality um, physically, but also the effects that that can have on emotions and the energetic body. Um, and the reason why it came up wasn't just because I woke up with a scratchy throat needing some marshmallow tea, but when we went out there, it was really interesting to watch Kestrel, um, who's pretty confident around other dogs, but also very mindful. Um, be extra sensitive this morning. Even dogs, bigger dogs that weren't being aggressive towards her, but were assertive. She was barking and screaming out and then running over to me. And if she wasn't sure about a dog, she wanted to interact with him right next to me. And her vocalizing about it was really, oh, I mean, there was a lot. It was a little bit of a drama queen thing. If I were to be, just sort of lighthearted about it. But in reality, what it made me realize was the effect of um, the social things that are going on for us people, but also the effects on of the air and the air quality. And so, what I wanted to talk about were a couple things: physical level issues that could be coming up for your animals, and then the energetic and emotional issues that could be coming up, and how those are tied together. So it's not going to go really in depth, but I want to try and throw out a little bit of hopefully useful information and also a little bit about the thought process that might make you interested in learning more about that and getting some help for your pup. Um, so, on a physical level, obviously, there's a lot of particulate in the air. And so, you do want to be careful about excessive exercise, especially if you have a brachycephalic dog. So, those are the English bulldogs, French bulldogs, pugs. They have a much harder time um, dealing with that particulate matter. So one of the things you can do, obviously, is less exercise, have an air cleaner if you can in your house, um, and acknowledging that even though they may seem perfectly normal and happy doing stuff, that it's still going to be affecting them. You can also give them, I just gave Kestrel a little bit of marshmallow tea in her drinking water, along with some yarrow essence. And this is where I want to talk about this difference between, the connection between physical, energetic, and emotional issues. And then at the end, I want to give you a couple hints on, how to utilize some of these things at home. So one of the things about um, the way if the air that you breathe in is damaging, is that it has a lot to do with that the physical body and our boundaries, and it's coming into our lungs, right? And breaking and sort of coming internally and bypassing those boundaries. So just on a physical level, you have that. But on an energetic level, one of the interesting things, especially when I mention what the flower essence version of some of these plants are good for, is that we also have emotional boundaries. And of course, we've had unusual times in terms of how much all of us are out around other people, whether it be for COVID or and also how we're feeling about other people in terms of politics and everything. So there's a lot jumbled up there. But even our dogs can be affected by this. So if you have an animal who has environmental sensitivities, this kind of weather is going to have an effect. If you have an animal who's emotionally sensitive, this weather will have an effect. So, this is why Kestrel, who seems physically fit and happy, was having such a hard time today at the beach and was feeling very sensitive. When a dog ran up to her and touched her, she like felt it as though she was getting punched or something like that. And so I immediately thought about flower essences for what was happening, and then the connection between the flower essences and the plants. Because yesterday I took a couple calls that were about, for example, a bulldog that's had ongoing problems its whole life, and all of a sudden yesterday had terrible diarrhea, and then another dog who has a lot of skin issues, and those have been getting worse. So a lot of itching and stuff. The reason why I want to talk about how important it is to treat this stuff early is what we have coming up in Chinese medicine is autumn is coming, and that is the time of the lungs and large intestine. So the lungs, obviously, a very direct physical effect can happen from the terrible air that we're having, that we'll be continuing to have for quite a while. And the other one is that it's that time of year is when you tend to see more dry, itchy skin in China. And when you look at Chinese medicine, it totally predicts that. And here in California, we absolutely see that happen. So, um, flower essences can be a great, not just, they're obviously great for emotional things, but they're also good for that first layer of defense in the energetics of the body. So if you have a good vibrant animal, that it's one another layer of helping to keep the physical body intact and healthy and balanced. Yarrow flower essence is exactly for um, boundaries, personal boundaries, and especially helpful for animals that have environmental allergies too. So we have this real connection there. So Kestrel today was absolutely demonstrating the emotional boundaries being porous. Um, the other plant, as an essence and a medicinal plant, I want to talk about briefly is mallow. Usually, we're talking about marshmallow, but here in California, we have a lot of native mallows as well that are found in dry areas, and that plant is very softening. So energetically, for a flower essence, it's when for those who have boundaries that are too hard and they need to be softened in order to be more flexible, friendly, welcoming. So you'll see animals that are like that, that when they meet other animals, they get very hard and the face is very hard. And they do come up and kind of punch other dogs and stuff like that. But I have to say, with us humans, I think this is a real time when both these essences are very important. I think as we approach the election, um, we need to be not only feel safe, but also feel that and also not be too hard towards other people, but to try and soften all those interactions. On a physical level, yarrow is very protective of capillary tissues and the integrity of capillary tissues. And so, for example, animals that have intestinal problems can benefit from a little bit of yarrow in their formulas. And then mallow, usually marshmallow root is what you'll see, is very moistening to all the tissues. So right now, my tea has marshmallow. It's about half, I should say, marshmallow leaf, and it's then a little bit of hibiscus and sage. Sage is kind of cooling. And this, I gotta tell you, the mallow leaf tea has been really soothing. And so for animals, you can use tea added into their food. And if you have real serious issues, you'd use a powder. And most of the time we see root. I actually didn't have any root for tea. I have some for powder for some of my clients that have real severe intestinal inflammation because it's very moistening and cooling. But I had a lot of leaf on hand because I've used that a lot for skin rinses as a sort of mildly moistening and cooling skin rinse with some other flowers. And so I've been making my tea with the leaf, where I put a bunch into I have a French press, and I put a big handful in there with tepid to mildly warm water, and I just let it sit for overnight or most of the day, and then strain that out and put it in the fridge and drink it cold and mixed with other things as I like, because I need to drink. We're all needing to drink a lot of fluids, and so it can be something that you can harvest locally if you're here. I have a tree mallow plant in my backyard that I could harvest from. I have yarrow, but only a little bit, so I'm kind of keeping that on the essence level right now, and I'm actually taking a yarrow essence formula and giving some to kestrel and doing a little spritz as well as an ongoing way to protect our tissues and protect our energetic body from all the fire air that we're having. So, what I would love to help you with is if you've got dogs where this sounds like something that could be helpful, I can absolutely help you out with an essence formula or with some herbs. You can also find some of these herbs in the vitamin section of your health food store, but they might be in capsules. They might be in tea, which would be awesome. But you can always open those capsules out. You can harvest. Want to make sure your plants are clean and everything. And if you if you don't have, if you kind of want something just really quickly to help moisten a dry throat, whether it's you or your dog, um, honey, natural honey, is a really great lung moistener and obviously soothes tissues when you swallow it. And dogs will, if you have them lick it, then it will get all throughout their mucous membranes, all up in their mouth and throat and lower esophagus. And so that can actually be a really easy one that you'll have in your kitchen. You don't want to give dogs a ton of honey, but it doesn't take much, just a little teaspoonful. Um, I also recommend, as fall is coming, that you really think ahead because these early fires are absolutely going to have an effect on the system. So if your dog at all has health imbalances at all, if they're an older animal where you need to really keep them on an even keel and they're more easily thrown one way or the other, this is the time you want to really feed the system in anticipation of when the lung system really becomes important in another month or so. And so reishi mushroom is really an important part of food right now. I recommend that you're feeding it to yourself and your pet, whether it be through the steamed powders like the ones that I have, or using slices and decocting into bone broth or something like that. Because that is really over the course of the next several months is going to be very important for the lungs, the kidneys, the immune system in general. Um, so I know this has been a really quick tour, but I have to say it was a real good eye opener to get out of the house. We've been at home a lot. Get out of the house and get out in the open around other animals, and I could really see this dynamic playing out a lot. So I'd love to help you with that. So you can contact me through my website, theartofdog.com, and schedule a session. We can do them over Zoom or in person in my studio. And so I just hope everybody is taking care of themselves. All my thoughts go out to the folks up in Northern California. They're really, really dealing with the most severe fires, and up in Oregon as well. And please let me know if you need anything. All right. Hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.